am surrounded by wrestling fans. Not sports entertainment fans. Professional wrestling fans!
World, look into my eyes. When you see me on a show, when you see these fans, you know you've got the best in the damn world.
This is the Wrestling Matters podcast where we stand up for professional wrestling.
Here we fucking go! Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change! Professional wrestling! This is it! This is us standing up!
Yes! 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 Yes!
That's 13-14! Make it till death!
Dina, I am the best in the world.
Cause that's the bottom line. Cause Stone Cold said so.
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling fans all over the world, welcome to the episode 117 of the Wrestling Matters podcast. How are we all doing? Hope you guys are well. My name is Anthony Walker here for the Wrestling Matters podcast, creator and host, and hopefully for the next hour, ladies and gentlemen, yes, 1 hour, you will get all the usual stuff. You will get a new concept. That's right, guys. I've changed things a little bit up now. So from now on, it's going to be a 1 hour show. And if I have anything else to talk about, I'll show it on the extra show that you can find on the YouTube channel. That's right. Only on the YouTube channel and the SoundCloud as well. I'm looking to go other things as well, but at the moment right now it's on YouTube and SoundCloud as well. So if I have anything I miss on here, be sure to check out the Wrestling Matters podcast extra show, which you can find on SoundCloud and YouTube as well. Obviously, Wrestling Matters podcast is on SoundCloud, YouTube, my websites, as well as being the extra show and the Swerve Network. That is the only thing that's going to be on the Swerve Network, is episode 117. Any extra shows will be on YouTube and SoundCloud. So, like I say, welcome to the show, welcome to the podcast. We're going to talk Raw, we're going to talk Money in the Bank, NXT, TNA, Ring of Honor, and ICW. That's right, ICW. Hopefully that's back this week. If not, I will find something to talk about, like I did last week with that John Hartson show. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Now, also, ladies and gentlemen, I have a top 10 of 10 times wrestling titles were disrespected as well. And believe you me, there's some interesting ones in this one, let me tell you. And plus a few other things as well, and plus a Money in the Bank review, which I will play the audio of later on. So I hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are well, and one of it is you are doing. And yeah, also, like I say, guys, Wrestling Matters podcast is on the Swerve Network. Be sure to check that out. Episode 117 will be on the Swerve Network, just like every other episode is each and every week. Be sure to check out the Swerve Network with Daddy Dangerously and Quake Phoenix doing the Max Wrestling. Sunday Segway with Kenny and Co. on there as well. Be sure to check them out as well. Also check out the Real DDP interview that he did as well. Be sure to check that out as well. Also check out Evan McCabe as well as Offshoot Radio with my boy James Belmont, Billy Johnson and Co. And yes, my arch nemesis, but in a good way, because we all love him. It is the one and only professor of TNA. That is Mike Rodriguez. Got to get him back on the show. I want to get his opinion on TNA as of late. But anyway, that's for another podcast. On today's show, ladies and gentlemen, like I say, we will talk Raw, Smackdown and all that good stuff as well. But we're going to kick off this part 1 of the Wrestling Matters podcast. Part 2 we'll talk Raw. Part 3 I'll play the Money in the Bank audio. And then part 4 I'll talk Smackdown and NXT. Part 5 we'll talk Ring of Honor and TNA. And if I have anything else to throw in, which I do actually, I've got something to throw in as well about What Culture Wrestling as well. That'll be on the final part. So with that being said, guys, also before I forget, be sure to check out the Mystery Island as well. Like I say, Biss is coming in to the Mystery Island, Monster on the Island in August. I think it's August 11th, if I remember correctly. So be sure to check that out as well. Get all the information to Mystery Island. It is facebook.com/back to the island. Get yourself over there and check it out. And also, if you're in the Liverpool area, Birkenhead area, 56 to 58 Oxton Road. I know David Anderson said they had an issue. People have an issue finding that place. So 56 to 58 Oxton Road. Get yourself over there if you are in the Birkenhead area. I know if I ever am in the Birkenhead area, that'll be the first place I'll go to. Trust me. So, with that being said, guys, 10 times wrestling titles were disrespected according to What Culture Wrestling. All the information to What Culture Wrestling will be in the YouTube. It will be in the descriptions below, the respective descriptions below. Be sure to check that that out as well. And yeah, without further ado, guys, let's get into it. 10 times wrestling titles were disrespected. Number 10 was Austin throwing the Intercontinental Championship in the river. He won the Intercontinental title back at Survivor Series, had a feud with The Rock going into D-Generation X In Your House in 1997, beat him, even though The Rock a couple of weeks beforehand stole the title, and he got the title back. But the next night on Raw, he was forced to defend the Intercontinental Championship by Vince McMahon. However, Austin had he came out on Raw and forfeited the belt to The Rock because he was done with the Intercontinental Championship, and he said he had other plans being the WWF title or WWE title. He forfeited the belt to The Rock, raised his hand, Rock turned round, he receives a stunner from Steve, and then he takes the belt. Fast forward 1 week later, Austin's on a bridge with the Intercontinental Championship and throws the belt in the river, the Intercontinental title, and throws everything else in the river as well, like pages, flippers, oxygen tanks and whatever the fuck. So that was the end of the old Intercontinental title, which paved the way for a new Intercontinental Championship that came in, which was that round version one that they had before Cody Rhodes eventually brought it back to its rightful position, even though it was entirely different from what it used to be. But yeah, many people say that's disrespecting the Intercontinental Championship. Me, however, I disagree with it, to be honest. But looking back on it, it was probably a bad idea to do something like that in the first place. That's just my opinion on it. But it worked out for the long run. Number 9, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, by the way, Rock got his revenge by throwing the Smoking Skull belt off. Number 9, ladies and gentlemen, was the Poor Cruiserweight title. That's right. The Poor Cruiserweight title goes back to WCW days when it had guys like Rey Mysterio, Billy Kidman, Juventud Guerrera. Fast forward to WWE, guys like Jamie Noble, and the list goes on and on. It eventually died because the last ever Cruiserweight champion in WWE, or in wrestling history, from WWE to WCW, the last ever Cruiserweight champion was Hornswoggle. And you wonder why it died, ladies and gentlemen. They didn't know what to do with it. The Cruiserweight title was at that point anyway, because there was no Cruiserweight division, and the icing on the cake was giving it to Hornswoggle. And you can figure out what happened next. Number 8 was Nikita Koloff with the United States title. Now, apparently Nikita was in AWA, and he came back in the early 90s of WCW and got into a feud with Lex Luger of the United States champion, who Lex was the United States champion at that very time. He had great matches and even had a match with The Undertaker at one point. But Nikita got the title. They got into like a rivalry with Lex Luger, and at one point he destroyed the belt. He destroyed the United States title, what Luger had at that time, which paved the way for the new United States champion, which Edge unified at Survivor Series in 2001 as well, that title as well. So all the great champions that had that belt, I think Luger had it at one point. I think Sting had it, Ric Flair, Rick Rude, and the list goes on and on and on. And like I say, it ended at 2001. Number 7, I believe this is, Greg Valentine destroys the Intercontinental Championship. This obviously paved the way for the belt that we all know and love, the Workhorse title. Not that saying that it wasn't the Workhorse before, but the original championship before the Workhorse, or the belt that was dubbed the Workhorse title, came in. Tito Santana beat Greg Valentine, and in an act of sore losership, I guess you could say, Greg Valentine destroyed the Intercontinental Championship. Next one was DiBiase buys the WWE Championship. Goes back to the main event. Hogan and Andre, they get into a match. The birth of the Hebner brothers, Dave and Earl Hebner. And then, obviously, Andre ends up beating Hogan, wins the championship. But despite the fact that Hogan had his shoulder up, and then one thing leads to another, Andre passes it over to the champion, to DiBiase, despite the fact he ended up being stripped of the title, which led to WrestleMania 4, that big, huge tournament they had at WrestleMania 4, which Macho Man eventually won, even though he wasn't supposed to. And I say he wasn't supposed to because at one point he was supposed to win the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 4, but we all know how that turned out, don't we, Hunky? Well, if you believe the dirt sheets at least. Next one was Harvey Whippleman wins the Women's Championship. Yes, you heard me correct, ladies and gentlemen. I did not stutter. Harvey Whippleman wins the Women's Championship. Now, obviously the women's title was on its last legs, and Harvey, doing his best Andy Kaufman impersonation, was the only guy to win the women's title. And we all know at one point, ladies and gentlemen, the women's title was on its last legs anyway. I mean, at that point, I think round about that time, it had Moolah winning the championship of Ivory, and then back and forth with that. And then the icing on the cake was definitely Harvey Whippleman winning the championship. Whoever came up with that idea should be shot. Next one was Mr. Perfect hammers the WWF title. This was going back to the days when it was a feud between Hogan and Mr. Perfect. They had a match on Saturday night's main event. Hogan won, much to the dismay of Mr. Perfect, and then Mr. Perfect takes the belt after hitting Hogan with it, and then smashes it up backstage with a hammer. And then Hogan comes back and picks it up like it's some sort of, dysfunction trophy, if you will. And many people believe that the remnants of that belt were used for the hardcore title, and I am here to tell you that wasn't true. The next one was everything that happened, or that ever happened, to the WCW title in 2000. Now, I watched some episodes on the network the other day, and I forgot how bad WCW was in 2000, quite frankly, especially around the New Blood era. There was a lot of things that went down 2 times, or 2 things that happened, where Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, then it went to Jeff Jarrett and Ric Flair, and then even David Arquette was the champion at one point, and hell, even Vince Russo made himself champion. And obviously there was the work shoot turned into a shoot promo, or shoot angle, which saw Booker T get his first world title at Bash at the Beach. If you haven't seen that, go and get on, find the network, guys. The next one, I don't think this was disrespecting, well, it was disrespecting the NWA title, but how can you disrespect a title that was already dead, quite frankly? The company had died in the late 80s, going into the early 90s. They tried to bring it back, and I'm talking about the NWA title, because the next one is Shane Douglas throwing down the NWA championship to proclaim and create the ECW world title in 1994, which changed the landscape of ECW. It went from Eastern Championship Wrestling to Extreme Championship Wrestling. But I don't see this being disrespectful, to be honest. How can you disrespect a title when the company, and Shane was quite rightly said in this, he said this in the promo, a company that died, RIP, 7 years prior, because Jim Crockett Promotions, who was the leader of the NWA at the time, on the NWA, they sold to Ted Turner, and that's how he became WCW. And that makes no sense at the end of the day. Was it disrespecting to the title? Yeah, it probably was. But at the end of the day, it helped create Extreme Championship Wrestling, and it helped create ECW. So everybody has their opinions about it. Good for the promotion, bad, and all that. But at the end of the day, you all know what happened. And that was at number 2, guys. And at number 1 was Medusa. And we all know where this came out. The shot that heard round the world when she threw 4 years of lineage of the WWE Women's title at the time and threw it in the trash on WCW Nitro. Gotta find that Nitro, dude. Seriously. But anyway, yeah, she threw the belt in the trash on an episode of Nitro. 4 decades worth of prestige behind the belt right down the toilet in that bin, despite the fact she brought it back at the Hall of Fame. So there you have it, guys. That is the 10 times wrestling titles were disrespected. Hope you guys have enjoyed that. I'll be back right after this quick timeout with the Raw review, ladies and gentlemen. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you guys are enjoying the podcast so far. There's plenty more to come. See you in a bit. If you like the Wrestling Matters podcast, why not check out their Facebook page at facebook.com/WM podcast and like the page and show your support to the podcast that stands up for professional wrestling, the Wrestling Matters podcast. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 2 of the Wrestling Matters podcast. How are we all doing? Hope you guys are well. And one of it is you are doing, and yeah, we're going to talk Raw now. Monday Night Raw. Right, let me get through the bits that don't matter, and I'll get to the bits that I want to have a deep conversation about. Raw started off with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns in the ring confronting Dean Ambrose. Both of them won a title shot, yada yada yada. Shane McMahon comes out and puts Seth Rollins in a match against Roman Reigns. The winner gets first crack at Dean Ambrose. Same old. Monday Night Raw also witnessed a cameo appearance of one Clown Shoes. That's right, John Laurinaitis. I think he's even put his name down for Smackdown's GM. People Power, or Prick Power as I call it. And apparently Shane McMahon didn't want him in, which is smartest move Shane McMahon's ever made. And yes, he did embarrass himself. Prick. I do not like that guy. Sami Zayn gets one over on Kevin Owens as well. Hopefully that feud will end now. I doubt it though, but we'll have to see, because they had a brawl backstage and they were fighting on the ramp. So I think the only way that's going to be settled is if they put it in a cage match. Or better yet, Hell in a Cell. Also, Enzo Amore and Big Cass beat the Vaudevillains. Baron Corbin gets one, or beats Zack Ryder. And Titus O'Neil attacks the United States Champion Rusev. That feud is not over, it seems. Women's champion Charlotte and Paige one-on-one for the women's title. Not really much in this match, to be honest with you. Charlotte went one-on-one with Paige, but, I think it was because of Paige. I don't know why Paige. I can't remember why, again, Paige got this match in the first place, or maybe she got a pinfall victory, if I remember correctly, but, Paige gets the title shot, and of course, thanks to one Dana Brooke, I believe, and a few other things, Charlotte retains the championship. But that was not the highlight of the night. The highlight of the night was the one return of the Boss. What's going to be Charlotte's next opponent? The Boss, Sasha Banks. And she made it crystal clear that she wants a piece of the championship. Charlotte tries to get away. Sasha Banks hits the backcracker and gets which leads into the bank statement normally, and Dana manages to save her boss, or mentor, or whatever the fuck she is. Sasha Banks is back, and Sasha Banks is going to be the next US champion, because she even held the championship up in the air. And I suggest right now, guys, you get a good look and go back and watch that, and get used to seeing that site, because you'll be seeing that site very, very soon, believe you me. AJ Styles wanted to give John Cena an apology for the club getting involved in their match at Money in the Bank, but John Cena wasn't buying it. So John Cena went one-on-one with Carl Anderson, which ended in a disqualification because the club got involved and beat down John Cena. That feud's not over yet. Another match at Battleground? I think so. Where are we? WWE Tag Team Champions, the Nudes, spoiled the return of the Wyatt family. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they're back. The Wyatt family are back. Bray in tow as well. And Bray made it crystal clear to the Wyatt family that New Day falls. Are the Wyatt family the next in line to take the tag titles from the New Day? I think so. But I think Bray's going to have to watch his back, though, because there's rumours flying around, and, everybody's still wanting that match with Bray Wyatt and Brock Lesnar, so will it happen? We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, it's not going to happen. Nothing will happen if it happens until August, because Brock is scheduled to fight in the UFC at UFC 200 early July, which should be interesting, very interesting indeed. And Roman Reigns went one-on-one with Seth Rollins, which ended in a double count-out. And like Shane said, he wanted a one-on-one match. He wanted a champion or a challenger to face the champion, which was Dean Ambrose, but Dean Ambrose went one better. He said he'll fight both of them. So the dream match everybody wants to see, ladies and gentlemen, will take place at Battleground. Dean Ambrose defends against Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. I don't know how this is going to go down, considering what happened a couple of days after it, or a day after it, whatever. Because Roman Reigns failed the drugs test, and he's been suspended for 30 days, but he'll be back in town for the pay-per-view. So how they're going to pull this off, I don't know. Roman is out for 30 days due to the suspension, which was effective immediately, and he's already apologized for it. And like I said, I left some info in last week's episode on YouTube and SoundCloud. I will do the same again this episode, so if you want to hear or read more about it, link will be in the description below. Check it out, or an annotation, if you will, on the YouTube channel as well, Wrestling Matters, AJW Wrestling Matters, so be sure to check all that out as well. So will they pull this off? I don't know. How they're going to pull this off in terms of build-up is what I'm talking about here, guys, not the match itself. It's in terms of build-up, because they want a good build to it, and it's going to be difficult now that Roman's suspended for 30 days. So, but do we care? No, the match is going to take place. I'm looking forward to it, and like Dazzy dangerously said on Facebook to me this past week, we're all for it at the end of the day. But like I said, I questioned whether or not, because last year they used Battleground as the build-up to SummerSlam, basically, considering with the Brock Lesnar and Undertaker thing. I would have expected this to be at SummerSlam, but thinking about it, this is all part of the new era. And hey, I'm all for it. Like I said to Daz on Facebook, I have no problem with it whatsoever. Sod SummerSlam, let's do it. If you're gonna do it, let's do it now. To hell with SummerSlam, let's do it. Fuck waiting for WrestleMania to put these matches on. Let's do it. Every pay-per-view should be, a pay-per-view. Not a pay-per-view to build up for a next pay-per-view. Every pay-per-view should be built as a pay-per-view. That's the go-away show. That's the show that's going to make you the money. That's why that's what Raw and SmackDown are there for. Use them to build up to pay-per-views. if you want to use a pay-per-view to build up to a next pay-per-view, but you've got to make it sync. So you've got to add it to the schedule with the Raw and Smackdowns as well. You've got to add it to that, because you go Raw, Smackdown, Raw, Smackdown, Raw, Smackdown, Raw, Smackdown, then pay-per-view, and then Raw, Smackdown into the go-away show. That's what people have used before, and that draws more money as well. But it's going to be interesting nonetheless. Little breaking news as I'm doing this, guys. I might as well throw this in here as well. There is a rumor, or rumors rather, of 3 pay-per-views that have been leaked, because we all know July 19th on SmackDown is the draft, and Battleground is officially the last pay-per-view when they are both together, as Raw and SmackDown are both together. So, the last pay-per-view before the draft, at least, because, you know, Raw and SmackDown will be on SummerSlam as well. There's 3 pay-per-views that have been linked, and I like to say, I know the links, I'll get them in, you check them out in the description below. I don't need to spend a good 15 minutes, you know, telling you about them, but I will talk about pay-per-view, the pay-per-views that have been named, because the pay-per-views that have been named that are coming back. You've got SummerSlam, and apparently they're going to do 2 pay-per-views a month, one for Raw, one for SmackDown, which should be interesting. And like I say, guys, this is not fully fact yet. We probably won't know until after SummerSlam, so we'll have to wait and see. The 3 pay-per-view that have been named are Backlash, and that's going to be a network exclusive, apparently. Just like Elimination Chamber was before, but apparently Backlash is going to be Elimination Chamber. It's going to be a network exclusive, like the Elimination Chamber. That I have no problem with, whatsoever. The other one is an instant classic, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently this is going to be a SmackDown show. I think the Backlash one is going to be a SmackDown show as well, apparently, but that's a different matter. This other SmackDown show that's going to be is No Mercy. No Mercy is rumored to be coming back, ladies and gentlemen. The No Mercy pay-per-view is coming back, rumored to be coming back. But this is the one that's interesting for me. Normally in September you get Night of Champions. I don't think we'll be getting it this year, because the pay-per-view that's going to replace Night of Champions is a pay-per-view that is being created from a TV show, or a show that was on television for WCW, but it's going to be turned into a pay-per-view. Any of you guys remember Clash of Champions? Yeah, it's coming back. It's going to be WWE Clash of Champions, except this time it's a pay-per-view, not a TV show. It's not going to be like Saturday Night's Main Event or any of that stuff. It is a full-blown pay-per-view. So that should be interesting in itself. That pay-per-view, I'm very much looking forward to see how that pans out. The rest will speak for itself. The other 2 will speak for itself should they come back. Like I say, guys, this is just rumors. We don't know if it's fully in effect, if you will. We'll have to wait and see. We'll probably know after SummerSlam if we don't know before then, trust me. SummerSlam being August 21st, so be sure to check that out. It's going to be very interesting no matter what, and I can't wait. So with that being said, guys, Raw was good. I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5, 8.5 out of 10. Hope you guys enjoyed this little Raw review and this little breaking news there, my thoughts on these rumored pay-per-views. Hope you guys have enjoyed that so far. Hope you guys have enjoyed part 2. I will end this in now. I will go to part 3, where I'll be playing the Money in the Bank review audio that I did from a little Money in the Bank review podcast that I did this past week, right after the pay-per-view. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as well. 300 views, which is fine by me, fine Debbie Dozy. And you'll get my full-ish reaction on the podcast as well to Dean Ambrose becoming heavyweight champion of the world. So stay tuned. That will be played right after this break, and I'll be back in part 4 for SmackDown, NXT, TNA, Ring of Honor, and hopefully ICW. So stay tuned.
There's only one wrestling podcast that gives you honest, uncut opinions and the most unique trivia since WWE did The Weakest Link. And the only place you can hear the show-stealing podcast promo every single week.
Covering WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground. Max Wrestling Podcast is the place for you. Join myself, Evan Money McCabe, the Phoenix, and the Butcher. Sundays at 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time with your host, Danny Dangerously, on VOC Nation and the Swerve Talk Network.
Go to maxwrestling.wix.com/maxwrestling or follow us at maxwrestlinguk for more details.
Give in to the madness.
Be sure to listen to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Every Sunday with Kenny Killer and the Galdem Sugar Shugs.
Yes!
With all the news, views, and laughter that you want.
They like
jet airplanes. Woo, they like long limousines.
Every Sunday, the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube.
So why don't you choke on that, slap nut?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very special podcast. That's right, a very special Money in the Bank review podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, I have just witnessed probably the greatest pay-per-view ever. That's right, you heard me correct. Damn sure, in my opinion, the best pay-per-view of the year. Few moments here and there, but hey, it wasn't the perfect pay-per-view, I'll say that. But it had a perfect ending, believe you me. Now, let's start off with the kickoff show, guys. We might as well get into the kickoff show, which had Breezango and Golden Truth. Oh my god. Less said about this, the better, ladies and gentlemen. Because of what happened with the Golden Truth and Breezango trying to get a tan, which led to Golden Truth turning it up a notch, if you will. Golden Truth manages to get their first win, and hopefully end this feud once and for all. And like Offshoot Radio said on Twitter to me, Tyler Breeze's career equals game over. Dudley Boys lose to Lucha Dragons. Less said about that, the better. I know the Dudley Boys are trying to put people over and that, and I get it, but you got to make them look good too at some point. It's not looking good for the Dudley Boys at this point in time, but I know they're there to put tag teams over and that, just like a Jericho and all that. But it's, you know, you're not making the probably arguably one of the greatest tag teams of all time look good. Also, to a predictable match before I get into the main bits about the pay-per-view and get into the most exciting part of the evening, and the most shocking moment of the evening too. Rusev and Titus O'Neil for the United States title. As predicted, Rusev dominates him, although Titus did bring up a very good match out of him, very good indeed, and not bad for Titus's first chance at a singles title since Darren Young is doing his own Bob Backlund thing. But all the credit in the world to Titus O'Neil, but as we all knew, ladies and gentlemen, Rusev would be dominant. And hopefully now bigger things can come now for Rusev as United States Heavyweight Champion. Also, ladies and gentlemen, Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler. Now, credit to both of them. They put on a good match, but that wasn't the interesting part about this night. There was a chant of boring in the crowd, of this match rather. Did I say that? Okay. That wasn't the interesting point of this match. The interesting point of this match was boring in the crowd. Now, I don't know if that was for the match itself or the fact that people are sick of this feud and sick of seeing these matches now. But the main one that interested me was the "Let's go Ziggler, Ziggler sucks" chants. Now, do people hate Ziggler there? Is there something going down? You know, is Ziggler, losing his way with the audience now? Is Ziggler becoming a John Cena? No. I can answer that for myself. I know that's what people may be thinking. Or are people just, giving up on Dolph Ziggler as a wrestler now? He's had his chances and everything, and people don't see him as a marketable guy. Maybe people have just given up on him now. Who knows? But Baron Corbin won the match and hopefully ended the feud. Also, Apollo Crews shows a good showing against Sheamus. Now, these two had a very good match. This was a case of Triple H's best mate facing one of his NXT boys, so to speak, because we all know Triple H and Sheamus are very, very good friends from what we hear. And, he made Apollo look good, and one mistake from Sheamus costs him the match, and Apollo gets the 1-2-3 win. And a huge win for Apollo since moving up to the main roster. Predict big things for that guy in the future, no doubt. Now, also, Charlotte and Dana Brooks against Becky Lynch and Natalya. Just a regular tag team match this was. No impactful, nothing that caught my eye during the match. Dana Brooks shoves Becky Lynch right into Natalya, and Charlotte hits natural selection move formerly known as Bow Down to the Queen and gets the victory. After the match, whether it was a heel turn, whether it was frustration, Natalya turns on Becky Lynch, predicting a Becky Lynch-Natalya feud at some point. Now, to the other bits of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, the main pieces of the pie, if you will. AJ Styles and John Cena. Now, this was a great match. Great match, back and forth. Could have gone either way. Loved the match. Loved it. It was one-on-one. The only thing I hated about the match was the ending, because Gallows and Anderson came out. Gallows and Anderson came out and basically ruined it, quite frankly. But The right man won, but it didn't make him look good. It made him look weak, quite frankly, in my opinion. He needed a strong, credible win like Kevin Owens got last year, but it didn't happen, and thanks to Gallows and Anderson, Styles beat Cena. I don't think Styles even known that Gallows was out there. I don't know. But at the end of the day, Gallows and Anderson help Styles beat Cena. Is this feud over? No. Because we all know John Cena will probably end up winning it. But a great match, no doubt, and I wouldn't mind, and I can't wait to see these two again. Probably at Battleground, or maybe if they're smart, they will leave it for SummerSlam. That'll be a perfect match for SummerSlam, but I can't see that happening. But at the end of the day, the story of it is a great match ruined by Gallows and Anderson. Speaking of Gallows and Anderson, they're in the Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match involving Gallows and Anderson, The New Day, the champs, Vaudevillains, and Enzo and Big Cass. Now, this was a great match, a great way to start the pay-per-view. Back and forth stuff, hard-hitting action. Yeah, just a great Fatal 4-Way match. Back and forth, could have gone either way, and New Day, using their smart tactics, they hit their finishing move on Anderson and pinned the Vaudevillain, who already took a finishing move from Gallows and Anderson, and clean up the mess and retain the tag team titles. You gotta give credit to the New Day. They use their brains and they walk away with the tag team belts. What's next for the New Day? I think it'll be a match involving them and Gallows and Anderson. Predict that at some point, in my opinion. But credit to the New Day, they're still the champions. Now for Money in the Bank. Now, this is where we get good, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we get good. I predicted Kevin Owens would win this based on rumors that I heard on the dirt sheets. But it was like Christmas for me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure it was like Christmas for many other people as well. Because Dean Ambrose won Money in the Bank. Thank you, Jesus. Dean Ambrose won Money in the Bank. He became the man. He became the guy who was practically on the verge of becoming World Heavyweight Champion, and unbelievable, he won it. I didn't think he'd win it. Like I said on Twitter, you fucking beauty. I can't believe they pulled the trigger on that. I didn't think they'd do it, but they did. Thank you, WWE. Thank you, WWE. Thank you, WWE. Thank you, WWE. I'll say that a million times over. We'd be here all day, though. But great match. Back and forth stuff. There was a spot in the match where Sami Zayn hit the Michinoku driver on the middle of the ladder on its side, almost killing Kevin Owens. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And there was a build up to the match as well, where there was a segment where Chris Jericho made a complete tit of himself and ended up saying stupid idiots or stupid morons, which quite frankly got over with the crowd as well. All in all, a great ladder match, back and forth stuff. Loved it. Hard hitting, physical, impactful match, which saw my dream guy winning, Dean Ambrose, the dream guy winning for the match, because I didn't think he'd win it, because I thought Kevin Owens would win the match and become Money in the Bank. Thank you, WWE. Speaking of WWE and the World Heavyweight Championship, it is time for the World Heavyweight title match involving Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Now, credit the WWE for allowing this match to take place and allowing all the matches to take place, because like I said on Twitter, this pay-per-view went into overtime, and it's a good thing this pay-per-view was on the network, because if this pay-per-view was not on the network and it was on pay-per-view, okay, and if it was on pay-per-view, holy shit, there would have been a WCW Halloween Havoc 98 moment, if you know what I mean, because it would have cut off. But thankfully, it's a good thing that it was on the network. I don't know what it was like on Sky Box Office over here in the UK, but no one cares about Sky Box Office, do they? Anyway, a great main event. And you would expect that, because this was a main event caliber, WrestleMania main event caliber main event involving Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Two guys who knew each other well from the Shield days, and Seth Rollins out to prove that he never lost the title and he wants the belt back. Roman Reigns to prove he's the guy, and it was a back and forth stuff. You know, Roman Reigns, near falls after near falls. Roman speared Rollins through the barricade but missed. Roman goes to spear Rollins, but Rollins turns it into a pedigree. Both men did not quit. Near fall after near fall. Edge of the seat moment stuff. And then Rollins hits the pedigree for the victory and becomes the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion and gets his belt back. Or so we thought. Because Dean Ambrose, just like he said on Raw, cashed in Money in in the Bank on Seth Rollins and becomes the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Yes, you heard me correct, guys. I am so fucking pumped up for this. I cannot believe I'm even saying this sentence, because there's been numerous times, ladies and gentlemen, numerous of times that WWE have wanted to pull the trigger on this and probably should have pulled the trigger on this, but WWE manages to get it right, and Dean Ambrose is the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. How long will he have the title? I don't know, but the landscape of SummerSlam has definitely changed, and the landscape of WWE has changed. Dean Ambrose is the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, and me, as a big Ambrose fan, because I'm a huge Ambrose fan, it's like Christmas for me. It really is. I fucking love Seth Rollins. I fucking love Dean Ambrose, but Dean Ambrose deserves this more, and like I've said many times, not just here, on my previous episodes of my podcast, Dean Ambrose deserves to be a world champion. He deserves a run with the world title, and he's got it, and I couldn't be more happier right now. I get to go to bed after I've uploaded this on to YouTube and SoundCloud and all these other great, all the other stuff that I'm doing as well. I get to go to bed with a big smile on my face, knowing that Dean Ambrose is the World Heavyweight Champion. Overall, guys, I'll give the pay-per-view a 4 out of 5 and an 8 out of 10. But the highlight of the night for me, guys, was Dean Ambrose is your new World Heavyweight Champion. Yes, you heard me correct, guys. Spoiler alert for anybody who's listening to this. Dean Ambrose is the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you listen to this on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe to the Wrestling Matters channel, because there's plenty more where this came from. I am going away happy. Thank you so much, WWE. Awesome pay-per-view, and Dean Ambrose is the World Heavyweight Champion. God bless my life at this moment in time as a wrestling fan. Thank you very much, guys. My name is Anthony Walker. See ya. If you like the Wrestling Matters podcast, why not follow the Wrestling Matters podcast now on Twitter at WM Podcast for all professional wrestling news. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wrestling Matters podcast. Hope you enjoyed the little Money in the Bank review podcast that I did right after the pay-per-view. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Let's get right into it, guys. Now we're going to go Smackdown, NXT, TNA, ICW, and Ring of Honor. In this part, we're going to talk about NXT, but first up, we're going to talk TNA, ladies and gents. TNA kicked off this week with an in-ring promo from Ethan Carter III, Drew Galloway, Bobby Lashley, and Eli Drake. And I think, from what I'm reading, that built up to the match later on in the evening, which was a tag match. Oh, it was actually the first match. I was right. Oh well, could have built it up for the main event. They didn't. I guess the main event was the Hardy Boys. We'll get to that in a minute. First match was a tag match. Eli Drake and Bobby Lashley against Ethan Carter III and Drew Galloway. Two friends, if you watch Evolve, that is. We all know how close they are. And Eli Drake, Ethan Carter III, Drew Galloway won the match. The Decay, and Bram in-ring promo was next. A little conflict between the two there. So I'm guessing Bram's going into a feud now with the Decay. Bobby Lashley, Drew Galloway backstage promo. Lashley told Galloway he is not happy about his win. He said that he had the power to give EC3 the first title match if he wanted to, and could kick his ass anytime he wanted to. Marty Bell and Jade. Marty Bell ended up winning it. Bobby Lashley, EC3 backstage segment as well. And Lashley said that he will tell either EC3 and Drew Galloway which one he would face next week. The Bennett's and Dixie Carter in-ring segment. And it all ended up being Corgan. Corgan announces that Bennett would get a shot at Eddie Edwards' X Division title at Destination X as well. Third match. Actually, that wasn't a Destination X. It mentioned Destination X in the bit that I was reading, but they put it on the match. So, third match was for the X Division title. It was Eddie Edwards and Mike Bennett, and Mike Bennett is your X Division champion, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, joy of joys. Rockstar Spud against Braxton Sutter, and Braxton won the match, and for those of you that don't know, Rockstar's supposed to sign another contract with TNA, so he'll be sticking around TNA for a while. Bromain's backstage segment. And the fifth match. and the main event, which sees the Hardy Boys collide in 6 Stars of Steel cage, and the winner was Jeff Hardy. So Jeff Hardy hopefully cast some sense into his brother. If you haven't seen it yet, check it. If you haven't seen it in the UK, I don't know why they haven't put any highlights up on their YouTube channel. But anyway, if you haven't seen it, don't worry. It's on yesterday and every Sunday on Challenge TV, I believe it is. # Impact Wrestling UK. Now, we go from that to NXT. That's right. So NXT kicked off with Ty Dillinger losing his match to Locan. I hope I said that right, rather. No Way Jose beats Josh Edwards only to be attacked by Austin Aries after the match. There's a clip of it on their YouTube channel. They start dancing, they get onto the announce table, and then Austin Aries just legit pits the piss out of him. William Regal addresses Shinsuke Nakamura's challenge to Finn Balor. 3 weeks time on WWE NXT, Nakamura will go one-on-one with Finn Balor. I don't know if that's their match. I don't know if it's a build into Brooklyn, because there's rumours going around that it's going to be at Brooklyn. We'll have to wait and see. But in 3 weeks' time, it is Nakamura and Balor. Bayley wins her match against Deonna Purrazzo. I hope I said that right. If I didn't, I apologise again. Nia Jax beats Liv Morgan, and Nakamura in his little warm-up sending a message to Finn Balor as he beats the living daylights out of Buddy Murphy. Blake and Murphy. So, yeah, that about wraps that up for this part. Hope you guys have enjoyed that. I'm not going to talk about it too much briefly, but like I say, 3 weeks' time, guys. Balor, Nakamura, one-on-one. Can't wait for that. So I'll be back right after this, ladies and gentlemen, with Smackdown and Ring of Honor. Then I'll be back, hopefully, with some ICW. We'll have to see about that. I haven't checked their, yet. If not, I'll talk about something to do with ICW as well. And then after that, I'll be back with an outro as well. A little outro, promotions, any other stuff that I need to mention, as well as WCPW announcing what's going down. So a little WCPW announcement as well in the final part. So be sure to check that out. All of that will be after this commercial break. See you in a bit. If you like the Wrestling Matters podcast, why not check out their Facebook page at facebook.com/WM podcast and like the page and show your support to the podcast that stands up for professional wrestling, the Wrestling Matters podcast. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wrestling Matters podcast. This is part 5, okay? Part 5, we're going to get right into it. Ring of Honor and Smackdown. We'll kick off with Ring of Honor because Ring of Honor was very interesting this week. Guido went one-on-one with Dalton Castle to open up Ring of Honor, and Dalton beat him. Very good match to kick off the show, and it was just all build up for Dalton Castle because on the Best in the World pay-per-view, he had a match with Bobby Fish for the World Television Championship, and if you've seen Best in the World, you know what happened. Ishii, the former TV champion, in his own right, beat Will Ferrara. That was just a squash match. Corino sends a personal message to BJ Whitmer. And like I said, guys, if you've seen Best in the World, you know what happened. I haven't quite seen it yet as I'm recording this, so I will see it, and you know what, I'll even just watch the pay-per-view just for that match alone, because I want to see that match, quite frankly. So I will probably talk about it next week on the show. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see, but I will talk about that at some point. Will Corino get one over on his enemy? I think so. And the all-main event definitely built into the pay-per-view, which sees Mark Briscoe, Jay Briscoe, the Briscoe brothers, teaming up with Roderick Strong and Jay Lethal to face the Bullet Club, which was the Guerrillas of Warfare, one member of the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega. Even though it was supposed to be both Young Bucks, but Kenny Omega wanted a piece of the pie, so fair enough. And like I say, Briscoes and Strong and Lethal got the win. Now, that was weird because the Briscoes, both members of the Briscoes in individual matches, they were going to face Strong and Lethal. Jay was facing Lethal for the World Championship, and Mark was facing Strong in a singles match, because apparently Strong has a problem with Mark. So that was Ring of Honor this week, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed Best in the World as well. I will be checking Best in the World out in due time, so more on Ring of Honor next time around in 2 weeks, if not next week. We'll have to wait and see, because I've got some guests on next week, which I will mention in the final part. Now, SmackDown, all building into a match involving, well, the fact that the draft's coming on July 19th. An impromptu Ambrose Asylum kicked off this week, a championship edition, breaks out with Zayn and Rollins, which ends up in a main event match between Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn. Cesaro defeats Alberto Del Rio. Sheamus defeats Apollo Crews by countout. AJ Styles beats Jey Uso. The New Day, Big E and Kofi defeat the Vaudevillains. Dana Brooke gets one over on Becky Lynch, and Seth manages to beat Zayn in what was a very epic main event, I might say. All leading in, guys, because before long, it's all going to come down to the point where the draft will be here, so it's all going to be all there. It's all building in. July 19th, we are not far away. I will be covering Smackdown on the episode of the podcast very briefly and extendedly as I normally do, because that's when Smackdown starts to get good, believe you me, because that July 19th draft is going to be very interesting, let me tell you. So with that being said, guys, that about wraps it up for this part. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. It's a little short, yes, but I'm going to be back in the final part with an outro, WCPW news, a little brief talk about the AJ Styles podcast with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and ICW. All coming up after the break, so stay tuned.
Be sure to listen to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Every Sunday with Kenny Killer and the Galdem Sugar Shugs.
Yes!
With all the news, views, and laughter that you want.
They like jet airplanes. Woo! They like long limousines.
Every Sunday, the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube.
So why don't you choke on that, slapnut?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final part of the Wrestling Matters podcast. Right, let's do some quick things to look forward to. As this is going up today, on Monday, tonight on the What Culture Wrestling YouTube channel at 10 p.m. UK time, which is 5 p.m. Eastern time, if I'm correct, What Culture make their debut. The Loaded show that they've got will be debuting on their YouTube channel, What Culture Wrestling WWE, I believe it is. So be sure to check it out, guys. I'll leave all the links in the description below. You gotta check it out, guys, whether you're watching this on YouTube, whether you listen to this on YouTube or SoundCloud or hell, my website or Swerve Talk Network, whatever. I will be talking about that next week. That is a guarantee. I'll mention it next week. I might even do an extra show on it. We'll have to wait and see. See how it turns out first. Because I don't think I don't expect there to be any wrestling on it, to be honest with you, because they've got tapings at the back end of July, so it could be anything. But I will check it out and I'll let you know what's up with it next week. But it is going out, like I say, guys. It is on June 27th, which is today, 10 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. Eastern. It's due to the football. It was meant to be at 9 p.m., but they've had many complaints. People wanted to check it out, but they'll be watching the football. So check it out, 10 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. Eastern, on the What Culture Wrestling YouTube channel. What Culture Wrestling WWE, I believe it is. But I'll leave the links to it in the description below, whether you listen to this on YouTube, SoundCloud, or even the website, whatever. Be sure to check it out, guys, and I'll talk about it. I'll give it a mention next week on the podcast. Also, guys, check out the Swerve Talk Network, like I always do. Daddy Dangerously, Quake Phoenix, happy birthday for yesterday, sir, as well. Be sure to check them out on Max Wrestling, Kinney on Sunday Segway with Shugs, Offshoot Radio with Billy Johnson, Mike Rodriguez, James Belmont and co. Be sure to check out Evan McCabe as well. Be sure to check out all the family on the Swerve Talk Network and give them some love. Also, check out Mystery Island, guys. For more information, go to their Facebook pages and their Twitter pages and even their website as well. TheAnthonyWalker.net for more information on how you can get to the Mystery Island links and stuff like that, to check out their website and that. You want more information on Monster on the Island as well, be sure to check on that as well. Yes, right, a base is coming to Monster. It's coming to the Mystery Island in August. Be sure to check that out as well, guys. And I think that about wraps it up for any other promotion stuffs or anything. Oh yeah, a little quick talk about AJ Styles' podcast. AJ Styles was on the podcast this week with Stone Cold Steve Austin right after Monday Night Raw. And I have to say, it is worth a watch, guys. He shoots and gives his side of the story of what happened with him in TNA. The whole whole TNA kit and caboodle thing, how he, because apparently, not to give too much away, apparently TNA were cutting his pay. That's why he left. The guy that bust his ass since day one of that company was getting a pay cut every once in a while. And to be honest with you, he thought he should be getting more money. I'm not going to give too much away. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you go on the network or find it on YouTube or Google it. Better yet, Google it, because it is a must-see. He really lays into TNA and really shoots on TNA about his situation that he was in before he came to WWE. Actually, before he went to New Japan, quite frankly. Also, it's tough growing up and everything, and that his father being an alcoholic. But like I say, guys, not going to give too much away of it. You got to go and check it out. Be sure to check it out as well, because it is worth the watch, no doubt. Now, to end the podcast with ICW. That's right, Friday Night Fight Club. Save the best till last. Friday Night Fight Club kicked off this week. Billy Kirkwood returns this week, guys. He's back to normal after being fired by Red Lightning, the twat, and had some derogatory remarks towards Red Lightning, which I thought were pretty funny. At one point, he said he was a guy that McDonald's were looking for a 24-hour manager, somewhere around about that, but the best one of all, he said he had affairs that looked like a kid stole his head and filled it with plasticine, which was funny. But apparently now he's got a contract. So that means Mr. Red Lightning can't touch him because he works for the Fight Network as well. So he's got a contract with the Fight Network, so Mr. Red Lightning can't touch him. All leading into the end of July, guys, because end of July is going to be hot. Shug's house party. Oh boy. It's all building in. It's all going down July 31st at Shug's house party. I cannot wait. I literally cannot wait to see that show. Anyway, the matches on the ICW Friday Night Fight Club were Trent Severin getting an upset win over Wolfgang. Wolfgang holding the briefcase, the square gold briefcase, because it means he can get a world title shot anytime soon. Davey Boy losing to Jack Jester, thanks to a little bit of help of Wee Man. It looks like Wee Man has turned his back on Davey Boy as well, because he's chosen local fire. Stevie Boy and Lionheart versus Kenny and BT Gunn, and Kenny beats Lionheart and challenges him to a match for the Zero G title at Shug's house party. Flying Rhyme gets beat by Aaron Echo with the help from Witch Kids of Instagram, and a few other people helped out in that as well, even Davey Boy's cousin as well at one point. But the match that stole the show was the last woman standing match for the women's title between Carmel and Sami Zayn. Kudos to ICW for making these girls go at it in that last woman standing match, and hell, putting it as the main event of the show, because they stole the show and they literally beat the fuck out of one another. Okay, if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. Chairs. It was just how a last man standing or last woman standing should be. It was unbelievable. It is worth a watch, and this is why you should be subscribed to ICW's Friday Night Fight Club, guys, and ICW On Demand. It was just unbelievable. You have to check it out, guys. It was mind-blowing, to say the very least, as well. So, like I say, guys, Carmel is still your women's champion, but she got took to the limit by Sami Zayn, believe you me, in probably what was the most brutal last woman standing match I've ever seen, and they haven't had that match. That was the first time they had that match in a while, and I could understand why, because you think it's brutal for the men, it's even worse for the women too. But all in all, guys, Friday Night Fight Club is worth the watch. Go and watch it on ICW On Demand. It is worth the price to pay to be subscribed to that website, to be subscribed to ICW On Demand as well. It's worth the price, believe you me. Go and check it out, just like Progress Wrestling is worth the price as well. They do some good stuff. Chapter 31 is up, so go and check that out as well. I've had a little sneak peek of it as well. And yeah, that about wraps it up for the podcast, guys. My name is Anthony Walker for the Wrestling Matters podcast here on the Wrestling Matters channel, SoundCloud, my websites, theheadanthonywalker.net and theheadanthonywalker.wix.com as well. I'm doing a few little touches to them websites as well, but if you don't hear this podcast on the Wix website, it'll be on the theheadanthonywalker.net website as well, so be sure to check that out as well. Like I say, I'm adding a few finishing touches to it as well, because I figured out something as well this week about their website. But tune in next time for another episode of the podcast. I've got the Altered Angle, Josh Dillon and Pepper Brooks on as guests next week, so we'll be talking about Raw and anything else I can throw in as well. Also a little mention of WCPW as well. And until next time, guys, peace out. Enjoy the rest of the week. Peace.
Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change. Professional wrestling, this is it. This is us standing up.
Yes,
Yes! 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 Yes!
That's 13-14! Make it till death!
Cena, I am the best in the world.
Cause that's the bottom line. Cause Stone Cold said so.